Hi, I'm April, and together with my partner Paul Kelly and our sons Lloyd and Ryan, we have developed a food forest which is now mature. It's over 25 years old. In previous videos, I've shared our goals and our strategies. In this video, I'll show you some of our food forest techniques. The main goals of our food forest are to reduce our impact on the earth by increasing carbon capture and converting our waste. And in return, we get food and medicine, heating and cooling, exercise, and outdoor living. We live west of the city of Wollongong at an elevation of 90 meters. We've got an oceanic climate with subtropical influences, and the soil is solid clay. Nearby and surrounding our village is a regrowth forest. It was once cleared for pit ponies for the mines. There's a lot of different foods beyond the supermarket variety. Our most reliable food plants are the mulberry, fig, lime, guava, banana, grapevines, hibiscus, tea trees, that is the tea that you can make green tea from, clumping bamboo, lemon myrtle, and we have about 200 different plants. As the food forest has moved into its mature phase, the native plants have become reliable food sources in winter. But many of the fruiting vines and trees have grown too tall. We made the mistake of allowing them to grow to their full height, so that we can't always reach the fruit of the avocado and the mangoes now. The lychees and tropical fruits like that don't fruit a lot, but they are surviving, and as the climate changes, they might thrive. The biggest harvest comes from very common plants like mulberries, citrus, banana, and sweet potato. I am not a food snob. If something grows easily, I don't see why we shouldn't appreciate that. Here's some of the tea herbs that we get from the garden. Include flowers and orange peel. The key strategies are sector planning, zoning, a hierarchy of waste use, multiple functions for each component, functional connections, creativity and experimentation, slow and small solutions, and mimicking nature. For each design goal, there'll be a couple of different strategies, and for each strategy, there's a whole range of techniques that could be used. Not all techniques will work for the climate or the client. Let's take a practical look at the difference between a strategy and a technique. My goal is to find the best use for our waste. After a party, we often have a bucket full of kitchen scraps. After I remove any viable seeds or offcuts that I can grow into new plants, such as a pineapple top, I use a simple technique to help me sort the waste and put it to best use. I put the scraps on a tray and I let the chickens decide what they want to eat. Then I let the geese into that area to feed on the leftovers. Finally, I take the tray and I feed those leftovers to the worms. So this technique could be called self-governance. I'm letting the animals choose what they want to eat. Another technique that I use to optimize the waste is layering. In the case of the worm farm, some of the worms live in a tower designed by Robin Crosland. The worm tower can be quite effective for small amounts of waste at a time. Let's say you've got coffee in your office. The coffee grinds can be fed down that tube to the worm farm. At the bottom, there's a tap that collects the wee from the worms, and then you pour that back onto the potted plant. Over the decades, we've tried a range of different techniques. We learnt them from looking at other people's sites. Some of the techniques failed. Some of them worked, but most of them had to be tailored to suit this site, which is shady and not exactly tropical. Here are the techniques that work well on our site. Our way of protecting the chickens. I know that works fairly well because we don't lose many and they often live to be about 18 years old. And they have their own chicks, so they're quite independent. The no-dig garden, that technique has worked extremely well all over the site. Wicking in the pots and in soil has helped us not to have to fret about the drought. We've managed quite well through recent droughts. The use of layering mimics the surrounding forest, and it works really well to stack lots of produce into a small area. The use of sun traps is absolutely vital when you don't have the ideal aspect. Our aspect is quite shaded. It's generally to the southwest. It's probably the worst aspect you can have, but we are protected by the close escarpment. And then my social technique is to be sharing and giving. And I think that's really valuable. When you lose things, people will be generous back to you. So for the chicken protection, we need to protect them from disease, mites, bird lice, and then predators like dogs, foxes, and falcons. My friend Pete the Permy and Sylvia, his partner, taught me how to use 2 houses for the fowls. We have one well-constructed chicken house for winter time. It has a mesh floor and it has nesting boxes and a nice cozy space. But in summer, I put them into one of the enclosures and I make a makeshift straw bale house for them because the enclosure is fox-proof. And that allows us to go away and help us just to come and check that they have clean water, scraps and seeds. But the chickens also have a large area that I let them out into every day so they can choose their own medicinal foods such as wormwood, daisy, chili bush leaves, taro, garlic tops, as well as the weeds. Having the 2 houses helps them to reduce mites and bird lice, and whilst ever there are wildlife around us, we will always have these threats, so we have to learn how to reduce the threat. I have learnt that smaller roosters have a softer crow, and that's important when you're in an urban area. And the darker chickens have better camouflage, but they are harder to breed because they have more trouble in the heat for their chicks to get out of the eggs. We use the geese to protect the chickens. The geese patrol the border around the chickens where the feral foxes and escaped dogs are more likely to be able to come in. And I've used sticks on the gardens to protect the young plants from the chickens. But also these piles of sticks help to protect the chickens from the hawks and falcons. But one of the most important techniques that I've learnt is that we train the chickens when they're young, to eat the weeds. Originally we got the geese to do 2 things, eat the grass and protect the chickens from the neighbours' dogs. But the grass loved being nibbled and fertilised, so that was a failure. The no-dig gardens got rid of the grass, but the geese did eradicate quite a number of weeds like wandering dew. After 25 years and the food forest canopy has started to close, the geese are actually quite hungry. So we grow sorghum and other greens in the glades, especially for the geese. And we cut up banana and bamboo. They are actually grasses and the geese enjoy eating them. I like to make lots of anti-aviaries, small ones in bird cages with a wicking pot in the base, and large anti-aviaries such as the enclosures. The technique of no-dig using sheet mulching has been really good. Here I am with my friend, Sister Mary Darcy, and we laid a whole lot of cardboard in the 90s. And here I am on my own. Sister Mary Darcy has passed away now. But there's lots more vertical growth, and we don't need as much horizontal space. Here it is looking at that same area from the side. It's a party space as well as a garden. There's the rocket stove, which can cook 6 giant pots just with sticks on the left there behind the table, and on the right hand side you can see the pizza oven. Quite often we'll have up to 60 people and we can feed them all with these 2 amazing outdoor cookers. So here's the different types of wicking pots that I have experimented with, and at the end of the day my favorite one is the last one, where I've got a pot that is just suspended by its rim in a bucket, and I don't even bother to put a tap on that. I just have a hole at the side. So you can see the different types of wicking in pots, or the plant is directly grown in water. That's great for mint and Thai basil. Then you can see where the pot is suspended above the reservoir of water, and that's fine for things that like tomatoes, coriander, spring onions. And then in the third one you can see where the pot is suspended by its rim, or it doesn't quite fit into the bucket, and then at the base, near the base of the bucket, I've got a hole for the water to come out, so the pot is not in contact with the water but condensation builds up. at the base of the pot. We also use wicking in the ground, where we build speed humps and overflow drains and create little bogs and swales. So wicking can be used in all the garden beds, and it's particularly good for boggy soil, hard pan soil, rocky areas, or building gardens on top of concrete slabs. So I like to build zigzags. Instead of swales, I'll let the water move from one area slowly to the next. The path could be used to harvest the water. We have at least 10 layers in the food forest, ranging from fungi and mosses and tubers, then the grasses, which are mostly edible, such as sugarcane, lemongrass. And then we'll have herbs and veggies. They tend to be more on the edges of the food forest and in the glades. And then there's a range of shrubs up to the emergent trees. Here's a list of all the different types of plants that we have, and we've got more than that. You can see the range and examples for each one. We are in a dry rainforest, and that doesn't have many emergent trees. The value of an emergent tree is reduced if you can't harvest from it. But I quite like the emergents that have the fruits fall, such as macadamia, or in this case the native tamarind, Diplodocus cunninghamii, Davidson plum, or Hervensis. The fruits fall and then you know that they're ripe. Suntraps have been a great technique on this site because of its poor aspect. The house is a suntrap, and the areas that we wanted to grow tropical plants had windbreak and thermal mass behind them and a pond in front of them. One of the social techniques that has worked has been to be sharing. By being sharing, there's less waste because we can't eat everything that grows on the site. One of my mentors is Professor Stuart Hill, and I want to thank him for reminding me about working with the unknown as well as the known. So I'm quite looking forward to future lessons on our site. Our future plans include multiple occupancy. We've got quite a few friends who live beside their children and see their grandchildren, and I would love that. We would like to share the garden, maybe some additional assets like a pool, and also share the responsibilities. We would love to build a fire-safe dwelling like this earthship that we stayed in the winter in the United States. It was cozy and warm. So you can see that there's quite a few techniques that have worked really well on our site. The biggest successes are allowing ourselves to experiment and then sharing the knowledge and the fruits of our labours. So our main lessons are that we prepare for climate adaptation. So we're now starting to graft onto things. If a plant is surviving but not thriving, we're going to start grafting a different variety onto that plant instead of planting a whole new plant. We're doing seed raising for ourselves, so we take the best fruit, the first fruit from a tamarillo, and we propagate that fruit so that it has adapted somewhat. And we've got to expect a social change, because as the city is expanding, there'll be pressure on us to conform or share the site. So we need to protect our personal space.